to say one thing. So, when you're in this business, you get used to, a lot of baseless attacks. That just goes with the territory. But I do think it's really sad to see manufactured smears against the First Lady and the program that's Hope Florida. Hope Florida is actually an example of government succeeding in lifting people up. And how many examples do we have of that happening? Almost never. But the inside of Hope Florida didn't ask for any money for the legislature, didn't need any new policy, but just through the First Lady's initiative that we are going to reimagine the way we provide services to those in need. And so instead of the job of somebody working in these agencies to just try to get people on as many government programs as possible and keep them on indefinitely, we're transforming the role to be a hope navigator, where the job of government is to link those people in need to all the wonderful resources that we have throughout our Florida communities. So we've enlisted the faith-based community, we've enlisted charitable organizations, we've enlisted businesses, and we've enlisted individual volunteers who answer the call when somebody comes in need. The needs go into a care portal, and all of a sudden you have a single mom that doesn't have a place to stay. It's not the bureaucracy that's going to lift her up. It's the church that comes over or the charity that comes over to do that. And what are the results since this has been implemented? We've gotten 30,000 people off welfare and saved the state of Florida $100 million. And so that's a great success story. Now, that's a success story that threatens some people. That's a success story that's going to invite attacks because people have their own political agenda. And I got to tell you, I'm used to the baseless smears from liberal media. I'm used to the baseless smears from Democrats. I've been dealing with it for over 6 years. It's par for the course. But I think now we have Republican leadership in the Florida House joining with liberal media and joining with Democrats to launch baseless smears against Hope Florida and by extension myself and the First Lady. Let me tell you something. None of these Republican leaders got elected on the platform that they were going to launch baseless attacks against the governor and First Lady. That is not why they got elected. Had they run on that, they would have lost their primaries. They would never have been elected in the first place. No, they were elected to continue our success in Florida, to build off the great achievements of the last 6 years. They were elected to cut property taxes, which they refused to do. They were elected to help alleviate and end the condo crisis, which the Florida House has refused to do. They were elected to continue our Florida First agenda. And what are they doing with their actions? Not only are they trying to sabotage that agenda, but they are stabbing the voters in the back with their behavior. Shame on you in the Florida House and your terrible behavior and leadership. Questions? Yes.
Voice support for disaster FEMA. What's the message to people who might worry they might not get help as quickly as that would happen?
So the question is about President Trump's plan to dismantle the FEMA bureaucracy and empower the states. Excuse me. So I think the media is not honest about this, because he is going to block grant the money to the states. And so we're not going to be left in the cold. But I can tell you that the FEMA bureaucracy is an impediment to disaster recovery. It is not doing a good job. Florida, we don't rely for preparation and immediate response. We don't rely on FEMA. We do it. We lead. We got local partners. We got the best emergency management team from the local, state level, anywhere in the country, bar none, not even close. FEMA, who the hell else could rebuild the bridge in 6 days, 3 days? 3 days was the bridge. So, I mean, of course, we've got that. But, and so that's just how we roll. Now, there are programs on the back end of a storm, individual assistance, block grants, things like that, that really paralyzes the recovery because of the bureaucracy. So we'd be better off getting the block grant and then letting the states administer based on the needs that we have. But too much of this gets hung up in bureaucracy. Our mantra in Florida has been, don't let the bureaucracy grind you down. Make sure that you're responding very quickly. There are times when we spend money to prepare where we don't end up needing some of the preparation. FEMA, you can't get reimbursed. I mean, for example, Hurricane Helene. We had a lot of fuel trucks ready to go in case we had fuel knocked out. It didn't really happen, right? And so we used some, but then the rest, we stored or did what we needed to. But then Milton came and we had the fuel contracts. Well, guess what? It knocked out for a time the Port of Tampa and the port in Bradenton. And so that interrupted the fuel coming in. So we set up gas stations around the Tampa Bay area with our trucks. People could go for free to get them through that 3 or 4 day period as the supply ramped back up. So we do these things. We're nimble, we're quick, we adjust. So empower the states. Give us the resources, and we don't need necessarily the federal government to be involved at all. Now, look, will we have maybe Coast Guard supplement some of our rescue? Yeah, we probably will call on that. But by and large, this is a local and state-driven process. We have the Florida State Guard, the Florida National Guard, Florida Highway Patrol, our sheriff's departments, our police departments, Fish and Wildlife, Florida Department of Law Enforcement. All these people, do a great job. Even the urban search and rescue teams, those are ostensibly under the banner of DHS, but they're basically local fire departments that then get federalized. So those are our people anyways, especially the teams 1 and 2, and we've got folks in Central Florida that do it. So block granting that money to the state of Florida, we will be able to respond more appropriately. Now, some have said, well, what if they don't block grant any money? What if they just get out of disaster management and just say the states must fend for themselves? Well, listen, if that happens, we've got a big surplus. We would have to make adjustments to how we approach things, but I can do that. Just let me know what's in the best interest of the United States, and if it is, the Florida will respond very, very appropriately. But that would obviously require us to change a little bit about what we're doing. But I don't anticipate that being the case. I think what you're going to see is a block grant of money, maybe not this hurricane season, but maybe in time for next, bypassing the bureaucracy and the red tape, and then let us go ahead and get the job done for our people. Yes.
Giovanni Diaz from Channel 9. I wanted to ask you if there's any updates regarding the grand jury investigation into State Attorney Monique Worrell.
So the question is there any updates regarding the grand jury investigation into State Attorney Monique Worrell? And my answer is I'm not privy to what goes on in grand jury investigations. So I'm not the right guy to ask. Those are secret investigations. That was not an investigation that I am leading. I can call for the Florida Supreme Court to certify statewide grand juries, but that's the extent, of my authority that I've exercised. Now, with respect to Monique Worrell, as you recall, I suspended her from office because she was not enforcing the laws as they are written on the book. She had her own agenda, and that was putting the people of Central Florida at risk. I think what happened was she was able to delay this and never went in front of the Florida Senate, where I think they would have found her guilty and removed her permanently. And so she was able to kind of manipulate that. Obviously, it's a very Democrat area, so when you run as a Dem here, you have an advantage. But I will say this. You have a responsibility to faithfully execute the laws of the state of Florida. You do not have the ability to pick and choose which laws you're going to enforce. You don't have the ability or the authority to let the inmates run the asylum. So I know the Attorney General is keeping a close eye on what she's doing. That could end up on my desk if there's a proof that somebody is neglecting their duties or satisfying one of the other provisions of the Florida Constitution. Then obviously I could act again. But that's separate from any type of grand jury, and those grand juries are outside my purview. So I have no comment on it. But two, even if I knew anything, it wouldn't be appropriate. But two, I don't know anything because it's not something that I have control over. All right, thanks everybody. God bless you.
I know that was a much more abbreviated statement from the governor than we're used to doing these lives. I haven't done one of these lives in a long time, but something has come out recently that proves something about where we live and where everyone else lives, and why Florida is very likely at some point in the future to just say, we're done, and secede. And one of the big impediments to secession is finances. And one of the things that the governor of Florida alluded to in that statement was one of the big things, emergency funds, isn't something that we are slave to with Washington, D.C. And in many other ways, unlike the vast majority of states, we have a massive budget surplus. Yeah, I know. It does, doesn't it? Somebody just said, in God we trust on the Florida seal. That red cross is actually a Christian cross as well. A lot of people don't realize that. You can see it in some of the older Spanish flags that what we would call a red X, they were attempting to put the Christian cross on the flag. But believe me when I tell you, folks, not every state is created equal. There are a lot of people out there that believe that we have 50 equal states and they're all equal and they're all the same and they're all just teeny tiny little microscopic peons bowing the knee to Washington, D.C. Nothing could be further from the truth. And with what's going on right now, if you're a Floridian and you're within the sound of my voice and this doesn't make you angry, something is wrong with you. Something is very, very wrong with you. There are acolytes right now, and you can go look. There are acolytes of President Trump right now, some of which are Republicans and were conservatives, that are now accusing Casey DeSantis of faking her cancer. There was a Medicaid settlement that came to the state of Florida, and a judge ordered Centene, the corporation that was involved in it, to allocate out of the $85 million settlement that came to the state of Florida, $10 million to go to Hope Florida. Now, the governor described in detail what Hope Florida was. It was an initiative put forth by the First Lady that said, you know what, we need to find ways to connect people who have need of things in life with charitable organizations in the state of Florida in order to take as many people as we can off of government assistance and let people in the state of Florida help other people in the state of Florida. And it was a wild success. It was an absolute incredible. Every single county in the state of Florida, the sheriff's office, now have a Hope Florida representative in the office where if there's a person who's gotten in trouble with the law or, gotten sideways with something, and it's really more about just an issue with employment or other personal problems, that they can find resources outside of government to help them stand their life back up. And it was amazing success. And now people like, you ready for this? Kat Kamek, representative from the state of Florida. Byron McDonald's, big fat Byron McDonald's, who has now announced that he wants to run for governor against Casey DeSantis and got the current person occupied. I mean, I just can't stand the guy anymore because he's lied about so much. Exceptions to tariffs, exceptions to deportations. You could go right down the list. But because he got Trump's endorsement, all these people now are coming out and trying to ally with people like Roger Stone and Laura Loomer to lie about the First Lady of Florida, saying that she lied about having cancer. Oh, she lied about having cancer to get people to support her and think that she was great because she really had some long-time secret plan to go run for governor. It's sick. It is absolutely the most vile. I mean, you can talk about how bad the left is all you want. You don't get worse. You do not get worse than Laura Loomer and Roger Stone, Trump and Z allies. I can think of nothing lower than to accuse a woman, mother of 3, who almost died, of having faked having cancer. And even after everything that's happened, everything that was said about her husband, her quote, no matter what you're going through in life, no matter how hard it seems, when you're back against the wall, pick yourself up off the ground and fight like hell. God is great. God is good. Hope is alive. Don't let the bastards win. Casey DeSantis, that's an exact quote, First Lady, State of Florida. And it's absolutely vile. And, you know, with everybody saying, oh, and believe me, there are a lot of conservatives right now who are completely done with Donald Trump. Absolutely done with him. He hired somebody to release the Epstein files, and that person went to Washington, D.C. from the state of Florida and looked at everything and said, you know what, as a matter of national security, I can't release these names. Now think about it for a minute. Who would it be? Who would it be in the Epstein files that if you released the names and the activities, that it would present a national security threat? Who? J.D. Vance? No, J.D. Vance wasn't even old enough to have ridden on his plane, Epstein's plane. Couldn't be J.D. Vance, so is Marco Rubio. J.D. Vance, Marco Rubio, and Ron DeSantis are all about the same age. And when the whole nonsense was going on with Epstein, all of them were in high school-ish age. They're in their 40s. That's how long ago this was. Imagine that. Imagine the idea, hope for healing, the idea that a state could operate independently and not be blackmailed by Washington, D.C.'s money and stand up its own real deal militia. Join flmilitia.org, just like it sounds. Join capital F, capital L, capital M, ILITIA. Join floridamilitia.org. Any other states out there want to play? Start their own militia? Supported by the governor? So once again, I didn't mean to go off on a tangent here on this, but believe me, there are a few things out there that need to be addressed. This country had a chance. This country had a chance to have decent leadership, to have decent people at the helm. You had a chance. We get up in the morning here in Florida and thank God every day. On our knees, we thank God every day for Ron and Casey DeSantis. And if this big fat moron and this big fat acolyte think that they have a chance of getting elected to the governor's mansion in Florida, I don't care if Trump talks about them to now until the election. They're never going to win. They are never going to win. I don't care what Roger Stone and Laura Loomer says. And if you're a Trump NZ out there right now listening, this is who you are. You are Roger Stone. You are Laura Loomer. You are these people. This is what you stand for. This is what you're not. So, this all having been said, before I say something that gets me kicked off YouTube, I will probably just let that go. But God bless all of you who've joined us at Patreon. I always want to say thank you every chance I can when I get out here to make a video. Thank you guys so much, because basically the Florida Maquis right now is a Patreon channel that just happens to also post videos occasionally on YouTube, because that's what's happened. It's about a 95 to 97% collapse. That's what's happened. That's why you don't see this channel as much as you used to. It's why you don't see that. And if you think it's just me, ask the Patriot Nurse. I know I talk about her a lot, but she's a great example of someone that used to post 2 or 3 times a week at least, maybe even more, and do long live events. And now, maybe once a week. Maybe. And, you can say, well, why is that? Why is that? It's attributable to a lot of things, but it has to do basically with the platform being compromised by people like Laura Loomer and Roger Stone, who use other platforms to post 9, 10, 12, 15 times a day and spam. And just spam every possible thing they can think of all day long, day after day after day. They're literally the human versions of spam. And spam is probably a bad way to describe them, because even the canned meat spam has a use in a survival situation. These are 2 of the most useless individuals to ever walk the planet. Damaging and destructive. In any other country, they'd be in jail. And these two should be ashamed of themselves, because they rode to their office that they have, not on the coattails of Trump, but on the coattails of Ron DeSantis. So, anyway, pray for each other. God bless. Lift each other up. Pray for the state of Florida. Like, share, subscribe. We'll see you guys next time.